Hello, this is Safari, aka Fit Mama. Today is March 13, 2011, the day I became a marathoner for the second time. Still haven't been home yet, on my way to run a few errands before I go home. I just wanted to kind of recap my marathon before I forget some things. Still kind of feeling crappy. Been sick all week, but I refuse to not do my marathon. I trained for it. I'm gonna run it unless I fall out. So try to do a real brief recap so I won't have to break this up into two, and so people can actually watch it because it was kind of lengthy last time. Anywho, so the race started. I had not much sleep at all. 3 hours of sleep. I was very upset about that because I expected to go to bed. I told myself I was going to go to bed early this time because last time I went to bed too late. Didn't work out that way. 3 hours of sleep, 3.5 hours of sleep. And got to the race. I was very tired, had some coffee, 5 hour. Tried to pump myself up. I think I did a little bit too much at the beginning of the race. Oh, excuse me. Because I was exhausted. So, first mile went by pretty fast, don't they all? Yeah, but the rest, by mile 6, I'll just go ahead and skip to mile 6. I was, let's go back to mile 4. First of all, I was dressed up in this wonderful tutu. It caught a lot of attention. It was kind of fun, but I had to take it off. Well, okay, anyway. I got really, really hot. It was supposed to rain. It was supposed to be cold, so I wore my running coat and all of that. I was overdressed. It did not rain. And it was not cold. But then again, I believe I had a fever because I had to take my running cap off. I never really run with a cap completely on my head. I normally, if I do run with a hat, it's a visor. But I still never felt that level of heat. I mean, I was very, very hot. And I took it off and I was actually fanning myself for a moment. The lady looked at me, "Are you okay? Do you need some water?" I'm like, "I'll be okay." So that's when I realized that I think I have a fever. So luckily I had prepared for, not a fever, I prepared for possibly sometimes I get pelvic pains when I'm running long distance. So I brought that. But it helped me. So I felt like crap for mile 6 on 6-2. So I'm talking to myself and trying to convince myself to continue to run this full marathon as opposed to the half marathon because it was a half/full, which I do not recommend for anyone. I'll never do it again unless it's the Baltimore Running Festival, which was an awesome half marathon, which I believe the full would be just as awesome because they don't start at the same time. The Baltimore half, excuse me. The half marathoners start an hour or two after the full. You finish at the same finish line as opposed to this marathon that went the first 12.3 miles together and then they split. So the whole time you're running the marathon, the marathon, you're like, I can still do the half. And because I felt like such crap, that's what I wanted to do. And I had many reasons to do so. I had, legitimate excuses. I was sick, excuse me. And I felt like, everybody would understand. You can just go back and say, you weren't feeling well. But I just couldn't do it. I kept trying to convince myself. Couple things that happened that helped me to make the decision to keep going. It was around mile 10 or so. The first thing was my playlist. Can't Stop, Won't Stop came on by Usher. My son made me an awesome playlist. I told him I was really thankful for that because it did help me, push me along. Excuse me. Excuse me, sorry. Can't Stop, Won't Stop. That's one of my songs that have been like my anthem, my whole weight loss journey. Can't Stop, Won't Stop. So I'm like, okay. And then another song came on, and then What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger came on. Now, come on. If anybody who's ever watched my weight loss video, number 1, that is the song that plays on my weight loss video. And number 2, What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger. Not that I wanted to die, but I figured, this is going to make me stronger. And then you go through all these. Then another thing I did is I looked at my I was talking to myself, and I was thinking one of my favorite athletes, Kobe Bryant. I'm like, Kobe wouldn't quit. I mean, Kobe's like die hard. I mean, he's supposed to be out. Next minute, you know, he's back in. It's like, okay, just recently, I think he broke his ankle. I don't know what he did. He hurt his ankle, and they were saying Kobe was going to be out definitely. And I'm thinking Kobe's not going to be out. It's just you know, you just learn to know athletes. And then I remember, and then as I'm running, these are all thoughts that's going through my head as I'm running between my, you know, before I get to that half mark, before we split. And then I thought about Michael Jordan. I don't know what year it was, but I do recall him playing in the playoffs, and he had the flu, and he was dead sick, and he was like, you know, you could see how sick he was throughout the whole thing, but he kept going. So here I am thinking about Kobe and thinking about Michael Jordan, and I'm like, they wouldn't quit. And so then the final thing that helped me make up my mind, I don't know why I did, but I looked down at my bib, and it said marathon. And then I looked over at the other bibs that were red. The marathon bibs were blue, the half marathon bibs were red. I looked over at their bibs, and it said half marathon. And for some reason, that sealed the deal for me. I said, I'm running a marathon, not a half marathon. So why are you going to take the half marathon route? So at that point, I made the decision that, of course, I wasn't going to risk my health. If it got to the point to where if I was, you know, too ill, I would stop because I didn't want to die. But I did start praying, and I figured the only way I was going to stop was if I fell out or something like that. But I kept going. But it was rough. It was painful. I walked a lot more in this race than I did in my last full. Like I said, you know, before I didn't walk in the MCM. I ran the whole marathon except for the water stops. I walked the water stops only, and I ran the rest. Well, this one, excuse me, I started off with just walking the water stops, and then, like I said, mile 6, I saw this hill. I looked at the hill looked at me, and it won. I said, I'm not even about to tackle it, and I just walked up the hill, and then I ran the rest of the way. But then somewhere around, I'm not good with math, so let's just say I was 8 miles out to being done. And I remember asking myself, and actually talking to some other random runners as well, saying how I wonder if it's possible to walk the rest of the way and not get swept, because there was a time limit. You had to finish within 5.5 hours or 5.5 hours from the time the last marathoner crossed the start line. So I was trying to convince myself, you know, I'm just going to walk the rest of this. I'm like, that's 8 miles. It's a long time. It takes me an hour and a half to run 8 miles on strong legs and not sick. I cannot imagine how long it's going to take me to walk 8 miles. So I kept walking, running. Excuse me, around 21, I talked to one of my running friends, and I told her, I said, okay, let's just run 22 without stopping, because it was doing a little bit of walk running, trying to, you know, keep going, but nothing consistent. But around mile 21, I realized that I was not in any pain. I just didn't feel like keeping going, and I told myself to push, to dig deep, and just keep going. The faster you go, the sooner you're done. Keep going. And I took off, and I don't know what got into me. I did have a little goo of vanilla, I think it was. Vanilla cream goo around mile 20. And I was very hesitant with that because, number one, I don't do goo. And I'm not, so whatever, I tried it. So maybe that has something to do with the fact that how I just took off the next 6 miles and just kept going. But needless to say, I finished strong. My 25th mile was probably, I think, my fastest mile in my entire marathon. So that's pretty crazy. And I didn't walk the rest of the way like I had pretty much planned to do. So I will say that I am very, very proud of myself. It was a true indication of how keeping going and not giving up. And I will say that my Fit Mama friends helped me mentally to keep going, because I thought about you all. I thought about how there were was someone who mentioned in one of the posts how she was able to complete a marathon with a sinus infection or with sinus issues. And that was like, well, if she can do it, I mean, it was almost like, there's no excuse for her. You have to keep going. But, and just not wanting to be defeated. That's a very hard thing to accept defeat for me. And so I just kept pushing. And surprisingly enough, I actually had given up obviously on the 5-hour finish time, but even trying to match my last marathon time. But then I will say that once I finally crossed the finish line and saw my time posted to my page, I was rather upset that I missed PR by 40 seconds. But, it is definitely, I was surprised to even come that close, because as bad as my race was, to finish pretty much 40 seconds within my last marathon time and I was sick. Hey, I'm happy with that. I'll take it. But, so I just want to thank you all for all your support and everything that you've done to help encourage me. You always say I encourage you, I inspire you. You guys are also, you keep me going, and I really appreciate you. So thank you very much for all the support today. I also got to run with one of our Fit Mama friends. She was on the course. Her name is Lisa. That was awesome to meet her and to run with her. So she also finished marathoner. Yay! Congrats, Lisa. So